The pot roast smelled perfect. Margaret had said Derek liked home cooking, so I'd spent the afternoon getting it right. Onions, carrots, potatoes, the works. Set out the good china too, her mother's plates. Derek leaned back in his chair, wine glass in hand, that easy grin spreading across his face. "So, Frank," he said, loud enough the whole table heard, "Margaret tells me you're an early-to-bed guy. Guess that means the fireworks happen on a tight schedule, huh?" His wife laughed. Nervous, but she laughed. I set my fork down slow, real slow. Margaret stood frozen at the sink, dish in her hands, back to us. She didn't say a word. Derek kept going. "Don't worry, we'll keep her working late enough she won't expect much when she gets home." The room got real quiet after that. Turns out that dinner was just the beginning. I should have seen it coming when Derek pulled up early. 15 minutes ahead of schedule, his BMW blocking my truck in the driveway like he owned the place. I was still polishing the dining table when Margaret called from upstairs. "They're here." And through the window, I watched him get out. Designer suit, expensive watch, catching the December light. His wife followed, carrying a bottle of wine they probably didn't need to bring. We had plenty. Margaret came down, wearing a blouse I'd never seen. New. The tag was probably still in the laundry basket upstairs. "You look nice," I said. She smoothed the fabric, didn't quite meet my eyes. Derek mentioned the company's dressy. Derek. Not my boss, not Mr. Vance. Derek. I opened the door before he could knock. "Frank!" He shook my hand too hard. That practice grip guys learn at seminars. Great to finally see where Margaret escapes to. Escapes. Like our home was something she needed to get away from. "Come in," I said. He made a show of looking around. Wood paneling, the worn couch Margaret and I had bought 30 years ago, the coffee table I'd refinished myself. His eyes landed on everything just long enough to price it, dismiss it. "Cozy," he said. His wife nodded agreement, but her smile was kinder. Margaret offered the house tour. I stayed behind, checking the roast. Through the doorway, I heard Derek's voice carrying from my workshop. "Still do your own oil changes, Frank?" "When I can," Margaret answered for me. "That's dedication. Most guys your age, they just pay someone." Your age. He was 42, maybe. Talked like 67 was 1 foot in the grave. They came back and we sat down to eat. The pot roast was perfect. I knew it was, but Derek cut his meat like he was doing it a favor. Pushed the carrots around his plate. "This is wonderful," his wife said. Genuine. I liked her a little for that. "Margaret's always talking about your cooking, Frank." Derek refilled his own wine glass without asking. Third time. "Says you've got the whole domestic thing down. Domestic thing. Like making dinner for your wife was some kind of hobby." I bit my tongue. Margaret was smiling, laughing at something Derek said about the office. A real laugh. The kind I hadn't heard from her in months. The conversation turned to work. Numbers, accounts, corporate speak I didn't understand and didn't try to. Derek held court, Margaret chiming in with details, both of them finishing each other's sentences like they'd practiced. I cleared the plates. Nobody offered to help. From the kitchen, I heard Derek's voice drop to that confidential tone guys use when they're about to say something they think is funny. "So Margaret mentioned you're an early-to-bed kind of guy, Frank." I came back to the doorway, dish towel in hand. Derek's grin was wide, performative. "Guess that means the fireworks happen on a tight schedule, huh?" His wife's laugh was quick, nervous. She looked at her plate. Margaret's back was to me. She'd gone still. My chest tightened. He was talking about our bedroom, our private life. And Margaret had told him about it, probably over coffee in the break room, maybe laughing about how her old husband couldn't stay up past 9. "Derek," his wife started. He waved her off. "Just joking around. Frank knows I'm kidding." And he looked at me, expecting me to laugh it off. Be a good sport. "Don't worry. We'll keep her working late enough she won't expect much when she gets home. Give you a break." The room was dead quiet. Margaret turned from the sink. Her face was tight, controlled. "Anyone want coffee with pie?" That was it. "No, that's inappropriate. No, don't talk about my husband like that." Just a quick subject change. Like Derek had commented on the weather. His wife stood up fast. "Actually, we should get going. Early morning tomorrow." She was already reaching for her coat. Derek looked surprised but didn't argue. "Right, yeah, big day." They left in a flurry of thanks and handshakes. Derek clapped my shoulder on the way out. "Great meeting you, Frank. We'll have to do this again." Over my dead body, I thought, but I just nodded. Margaret walked them to their car. I watched through the window as she and Derek talked for a minute, his hand on her shoulder. Familiar. Easy? She laughed at something he said. When she came back inside, I was washing dishes. "Well, that went well," she said, heading for the stairs. "I'm exhausted. Going to bed." "Margaret." "Not tonight, Frank. I'm tired." Her bedroom door closed. I stood at the sink, hands in soapy water, staring at the spot where she'd frozen. where she could have said something, should have said something. In the laundry basket, I found the new blouse. The price tag was still attached. Expensive. More than she usually spent. I sat on the edge of the bed in the dark, listening to her breathe in the next room. 30 years, I thought. 30 years, and I didn't know her anymore. Sunday morning came cold and gray. I woke at 6 out of habit, made coffee in the percolator, the old kind that fills the house with that burnt, honest smell. Margaret didn't come down until almost 8. She poured herself a cup, added cream, stood at the counter instead of sitting. "You never came to bed," she said. "Couldn't sleep." "Frank," she sighed, set her mug down. "You're making too much of last night. Derek was just joking around." Just joking. Like that made it fine. "He talked about our bedroom, Margaret, in front of strangers. His wife isn't a stranger. And it's not like he said anything graphic. You're being too sensitive." Too sensitive. There it was. "You told him I go to bed early. You told him about us. Everyone complains about their spouse at work, Frank. It's normal. It doesn't mean anything. It means you told him things that aren't his business." She picked up her mug, gripped it tight. What was I supposed to do? Make a scene? Embarrass my boss in our home? I'm your husband. And he's my boss. I've worked 28 years for this promotion, Frank. 28 years. I'm not going to throw that away because he made one joke you didn't like. One joke I didn't like. Like it was my problem, my oversensitivity, my failure to take it in stride. I wanted to say more. Wanted to ask when her career became more important than my dignity. But the look on her face, defensive, tired, already done with this conversation, stopped me cold. "Fine," I said. "Thank you." She dumped the rest of her coffee in the sink. "I'm going to the store. We need groceries." She was gone 4 hours. When she came back, she had flowers for the table, a peace offering that didn't include an apology. Church service that Sunday felt longer than usual. We sat in our regular pew, third from the back on the right, same spot for 15 years. Pastor Jim preached about forgiveness. The irony wasn't lost on me. Janine Kellerman caught us at the coffee hour. She was 60-something, widowed, ran the church bulletin, and knew everyone's business before they knew it themselves. "Margaret, She pulled my wife into a hug. "Heard you hosted your new boss for dinner yesterday. How'd that go?" Margaret's smile went bright and brittle. "Wonderful. Derek loved Frank's pot roast." "I'm sure he did." Janine's eyes flicked to me, something in her expression, knowing, careful. "Your husband's quite the cook, isn't he?" "The best," Margaret said, already looking past Janine to someone else. After she moved on, Earl Patterson appeared at my elbow. My neighbor, retired postal worker, widower, going on 4 years now. He lived in the house on our right, close enough I could see his kitchen light come on every morning at 5:30. "You look tired, Frank." Not sleeping great." He nodded, sipped his weak church coffee. "Margaret's boss. That the young fellow with the BMW?" Word traveled fast in a small town. "That's him. Seen him before." Earl's voice was flat, neutral. "Cocky type. Knows his way around a handshake, but not much else." And I almost smiled. "That about covers it. You watch yourself with guys like that." Earl clapped my shoulder. "They think the world owes them something just for showing up." Margaret appeared then, purse already on her shoulder. "We should go, Frank. I've got work to catch up on." Sunday afternoon. She had work to catch up on. In the car, she was quiet until we hit the main road. "Why'd you tell Earl about Derek?" "I didn't." "Then how does he know?" "Janine probably saw the BMW, or someone from church drove past. This is a small town, Margaret. People notice." Well, I don't like people talking about my career." Then maybe you shouldn't bring your boss home for dinner." She didn't answer, just stared out the window, jaw set. At home, she went straight upstairs. I heard her on the phone, voice muffled through the floor, laughing. That same bright, unfamiliar laugh from last night. I sat on the porch, despite the cold, wrapped myself in the old marine blanket I kept out there, the green wool one that smelled like mothballs in memory. The sky was iron gray, snow coming probably. The neighbor's dog barked somewhere down the street. Margaret came down an hour later, coat on, keys in hand. "I'm going to the office for a few hours. It's Sunday." "I know what day it is, Frank. I have a presentation Monday." You've never worked Sundays before." "I've never been regional manager before." And she opened the door, paused. I was thinking, maybe we could go to the lake cabin next month. Like we used to, get away for a weekend. The lake cabin. We hadn't been there since last spring. It was 2 hours north, right on the water. We'd bought it 20 years ago with the idea we'd retire there someday. "Yeah," I said. "That'd be nice." Her face softened. "Good. I'll look at the calendar this week." She kissed my forehead like I was a child. "Don't wait up. The door closed behind her. I sat there until the cold worked its way through the blanket, through my coat, into my bones. Then I went inside and made dinner for one. Around 8, my phone rang. Margaret. "Hey," she said. Background noise, voices, music. "I'm grabbing dinner with some people from work. Don't wait up. But you said you were going to the office." "I was. We finished early, decided to get food. I'll be home by 10. "Who's we?" A pause, just long enough. "The team. Derek's treating everyone to celebrate the quarterly numbers." Derek, of course. "Okay," I said. "Don't be like that." "Like what?" "You know what. I'll see you tonight." She hung up. I sat at the kitchen table with cold coffee and the Sunday paper I hadn't read. The house was too quiet. The furnace kicked on, warm air rattling through the vents. Somewhere a clock ticked. At 12:30 a.m. I heard her car in the driveway. I was still on the porch. Couldn't bring myself to go inside, to that empty bed, to the bedroom, where she'd chosen to sleep alone rather than talk about what happened. She got out of the car, slow, saw me sitting there. "Frank, what are you doing out here? It's freezing." I couldn't sleep. She came up the steps and I smelled it. Wine. Not drunk, but she'd had more than one glass. "You should come inside." "In a minute." This is about last night, isn't it? About Derek." I didn't answer. Margaret sat down next to me, pulled the blanket around both our shoulders. For a second, just a second, it felt like before, like us. "I'm sorry he made that joke," she said. "It was inappropriate. But Frank, you have to understand, I can't control what Derek says. He's my boss." You can control whether you laugh." She pulled away. The blanket fell off her shoulders. I didn't laugh. You didn't defend me either. What was I supposed to do? Start a fight at our own dinner table? You were supposed to have my back. She stood up. "I'm going to bed. You coming?" "Not yet." She went inside. The door clicked shut, soft but final. I sat there until dawn, watching the streetlights go out one by one, waiting for something that never came. When Earl's kitchen light came on at 5:30, I finally went inside. Margaret was already up, dressed for work, coffee in a travel mug. "I'm taking the lake cabin idea seriously," she said, like last night never happened. "First weekend in January. I'll request it off." "Sure," I said. She smiled, kissed my cheek. "Love you." The door closed behind her. I stood in the kitchen, listening to her car pull away, and thought, when did I become something she schedules around? The first weekend of January came cold and clear. Margaret left work early Friday, a minor miracle, and we drove north in separate silence. Not angry silence. Just the quiet of two people who'd run out of small talk somewhere around Thanksgiving. The cabin sat on 3 acres of pine and birch, right where the lake narrowed into something almost private. We'd bought it back when Margaret was still climbing the ladder, when weekends away meant something other than escape. I unlocked the door while she grabbed bags from the car. Inside smelled like cedar and cold and memories. "I'll get the heat going," I said. "I'll make coffee." We moved around each other with practiced efficiency. 30 years teaches you the choreography. Who takes which side of the bed, who makes coffee, who starts the fire. We could do it in our sleep. By evening, the place was warm. We sat on the dock, wrapped in blankets despite the January cold, steam rising from our mugs into the frozen air. "Remember when we bought this place?" Margaret asked. "You were 32, said you needed somewhere to escape the office." She smiled, a real one. "I'd just made supervisor. Thought I'd conquered the world." "You worked hard for it." "Yeah." She sipped her coffee. "Still do." A loon called across the water, lonely and clear. "Frank?" "Yeah?" "I'm glad we came." I wanted to believe her. Wanted this weekend to fix whatever had broken over Derek's dinner joke and the weeks of silence that followed. Maybe if we just stayed here, didn't go back, it could. Her phone buzzed in her coat pocket. She pulled it out, glanced at the screen. Her face changed, just slightly, but I saw it. That shift from present to somewhere else. "Work?" I asked. "Just an email. I'll check it later." She set the phone on the bench between us. It buzzed twice more in the next 10 minutes. Each time, I watched her eyes flick toward it. "You can check it," I said. "It's fine. I'm here with you." But she wasn't. Not really. Part of her was back in that glass office building 20 minutes from our house, thinking about quarterly reports and whatever email. Couldn't wait until Monday. Saturday morning, she made pancakes. I came in from chopping wood to the smell of butter and maple syrup and coffee. It felt like old times, before the promotion, before Derek, before she started looking at me like I was something that needed managing. "These are perfect," I said. "Your recipe." She slid 2 more onto my plate. "I haven't forgotten everything." We ate slow, talking about nothing important. The neighbor's new dock. Whether to repaint the shutters in spring, small things, safe things. After breakfast, we walked the perimeter trail. Snow had fallen during the week, and our boots crunched through the crust. Margaret slipped on a patch of ice, and I caught her elbow. Careful. Thanks. She didn't let go right away. For a moment, standing there in the cold with her hand on my arm, I thought maybe we'd turned a corner. Maybe Derek and his jokes and her late nights were just a rough patch. 30 years had plenty of those. That night, she reached for my hand across the dinner table. I'm grateful for you, she said. For this. I know work's been crazy and I've been distant. This weekend reminded me what matters. What matters? Us, this, 30 years. I wanted to ask about Derek, about why she'd told him things she shouldn't have, about why she worked late every night now and came home smelling like wine and other people's cologne, but she was looking at me like she used to, and I didn't want to ruin it. Yeah, I said. 30 years. She squeezed my hand. Let's come back next month. I'd like that. Sunday morning, packing to leave, I heard her voice from the bedroom. On the phone, professional tone, the one she used for work. Yes, Derek. I'll be in early Monday. The Morrison account needs attention before the client call. Derek, of course. I know. The numbers look good, but we can't get complacent. I stood in the doorway. She saw me, gave a little wave, kept talking. No, I can't do Tuesday evening. Frank wants to plan another lake trip. A pause. I'll move the meeting to Wednesday. She hung up, smiled at me like nothing was wrong. Ready to head out? In the car, she was cheerful. Talked about coming back in February, maybe March. Made plans like the weekend had fixed everything. I drove in silence, watching the pines thin out into farmland, then suburbs, then our town. She'd said my name to Derek like an obligation, like something that needed to be worked around. When we pulled into our driveway, she kissed my cheek. Thanks for this weekend. I needed it. She went inside to unpack. I sat in the truck, hands on the steering wheel, engine ticking as it cooled. Monday morning, she left at 6:30, an hour earlier than usual. Tuesday, I made her favorite sandwich. Turkey with the mustard she likes, chips and apple, thermos of soup. Put it all in the old lunch bag and drove to her office. Surprised her. Like the old days, when I'd bring her lunch and we'd eat in her car, talking about nothing and everything. I parked outside the glass building. Derek's BMW sat in the reserved spot closest to the door. The lunch bag felt heavy in my hands. I should have called first, should have texted. But she was my wife. I didn't need permission. The receptionist waved me back. She's in her office. The hallway smelled like new carpet and air conditioning set too cold. Corporate art on the walls, the kind that doesn't mean anything. Margaret's office was halfway down, door cracked open. I heard her laugh before I saw her. Not the careful laugh from the lake. The real one, bright and unguarded. I stopped outside the door. Through the gap, I could see Derek perched on the edge of her desk. Margaret, in her chair, looking up at something on his phone. Both of them laughing. Your old man would have a heart attack if he knew you stayed till midnight last Tuesday, Derek said. My chest tightened. Margaret's laugh again. What Frank doesn't know won't hurt him. Besides, someone has to hit these numbers. What Frank doesn't know. That's my MVP. Derek grinned. Not like the husbands who guilt-trip their wives for working hard. Frank doesn't guilt-trip, Margaret said. He just doesn't get it. Doesn't get it. The lunch bag slipped from my hand. Didn't fall. I caught it. But the apple shifted, thunked against the thermos. The receptionist's phone rang down the hall. I turned and walked. Fast. Not running, but close. Outside, the January air hit me like a slap. I put the lunch bag in the truck bed. Couldn't give it to her now. Couldn't walk into that office and pretend I hadn't heard. I sat in the cab, hands shaking. 10 minutes later, Margaret came out the building's front entrance, Derek beside her, hand on her shoulder, saying something that made her laugh again. She got in her car, drove right past my truck, didn't see me. I sat there until the shaking stopped, until I could trust myself to drive. At home, I put the lunch in the fridge, the sandwich, the soup, the apple with the bruise from where it hit the thermos. That night, she came home at 8. How was your day? She asked. Fine, I said. Yours? Busy. Derek's pushing hard on the Morrison account. Derek, always Derek. She didn't mention that I'd been at her office. Didn't know I'd heard. What Frank doesn't know won't hurt him. I sat on the porch until midnight, wrapped in the marine blanket, trying to figure out when I'd stopped being her husband and started being the old man who didn't get it. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. By Wednesday, my hands had a tremor I couldn't control. Coffee mug rattling against the saucer. Steering wheel vibrating under my palms. Margaret noticed Thursday morning. You okay? Fine. You don't look fine. Just tired. And she put her hand on mine. The shaking stopped for a second, started again when she pulled away. Maybe you should see Dr. Morrison. I'm fine, Margaret. She left for work. I sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. The phone rang around 10. Earl. Got a minute? He asked. Yeah. Come over. Got something to show you. I walked next door. Earl's kitchen smelled like burnt toast and old coffee. He had a manila folder on the table. Sit, he said. I sat. My niece, the one in St. Paul, she worked for a company called Midwest Regional Solutions 2 years ago. I waited. Derek Vance was her supervisor. My hands went still. Earl opened the folder. Photocopied documents, email printouts, HR complaints with names blacked out but dates visible. 3 women, Earl said, all married, all reported inappropriate comments about their husbands. All complaints buried by legal. All got settlements with NDAs. I picked up one of the papers, read it slow. Subject repeatedly made jokes about employees' husbands' age, physical capability, and outdated masculinity. Created hostile environment by suggesting employees' home life was inferior to workplace relationships. He does this, Earl said. Gets women promoted, makes them feel valued, then makes their husbands feel like nothing, gets off on it. I set the paper down. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Why are you showing me this? Because you're not crazy, Frank. And because I thought you should know, you're not the first. I looked through the rest of the folder. 3 women, 3 husbands, 3 buried complaints. One note at the bottom, handwritten, subject's own marriage dissolved 6 months prior to incidents. Possible contributing factor to behavior. Derek's wife had left him. That's why she wasn't at the dinner. Why he'd come alone to that company party, Margaret mentioned. What am I supposed to do with this? I asked. That's up to you, but I figured knowledge beats wondering if you're overreacting. I took the folder home, sat on the porch, reading every page until I had them memorized. Margaret's car pulled in at 6:30. Early for her lately? She saw me on the porch, saw the folder. What's that? Information. About what? Your boss. She came up the steps slowly. Frank, did you know Derek's wife left him 6 months ago? She stopped. Did you know he's got 3 sexual harassment settlements from his last company? Her face went white. That's not, where did you get this? Does it matter? You're invading his privacy. He invaded ours. First, at our dinner table, in our bedroom. Frank, this is crazy. Is it? I stood up. 3 women, Margaret. 3 married women whose husbands he made feel small, just like me. All of them filed complaints. All of them got buried. I don't believe... It's right here. Oh, as I held out the folder. Read it. She didn't take it. Where did you get this? Earl. His niece worked for Derek at Midwest Regional. She was one of the 3. Margaret sat down hard on the porch step. This can't be real. It's real. She put her head in her hands. For a minute, neither of us spoke. Then she looked up. Even if this is true, and I'm not saying it is, what do you want me to do? Quit? Throw away my career because my boss made some inappropriate jokes? I want you to see what he is. I see a man who promoted me after 28 years of being passed over. I see someone who values my work. He's playing you, Margaret. Or maybe you're jealous. The word hit like a fist. Jealous? That someone else sees my worth. That I finally have a career, not just a job. She stood up. I've worked my entire life to get here, Frank. And you want me to throw it away because your feelings are hurt? My feelings? Margaret, he talked about our bedroom, our private life. And you told him things you had no business telling him. Everyone vents about their spouse at work. Not like this. Not about this. She grabbed her purse from the car. I can't do this right now. I'm going inside. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You got some folder from Earl's niece, and now you think you know my boss better than I do. She opened the door. I'm going to bed. It's 7 o'clock. I'm tired, Frank. I'm tired of this conversation, and I'm tired of you making my career about you. The door closed. I sat on the porch as the sun went down. The folder in my lap, 3 women, 3 husbands, 3 marriages Derek had worked his way into. Around 9, I saw Margaret's light go out. Around 10, I gave up waiting for her to come back down. I drove. Didn't know where I was going until I pulled into the church parking lot. Empty this time of night. Just the stained glass catching street light, throwing colored shadows across the snow. I sat there for 2 hours, tried to pray, couldn't find the words. When I got home, Margaret's car was gone. A note on the kitchen table. Went to Jenny's for the night. Need space. Jenny was her friend from college. Lived across town. I crumpled the note. Smoothed it back out. Read it again. Need space. 30 years and she needed space from me. I made coffee I didn't drink. Sat at the kitchen table until dawn. Painted the windows gray. My phone rang at 6. Margaret. I'm going straight to work from Jenny's, she said. I'll be home tonight. Okay. Frank, Yeah? A long pause. Nothing. I'll see you tonight. She didn't come home until almost midnight. I was still at the kitchen table. Same coffee, cold now. Same folder. She stood in the doorway, coat still on. I talked to Derek today, she said. About the folder. My stomach dropped. He said those women misunderstood his management style, that the complaints were exaggerated by disgruntled employees, and you believe him. I believe there are two sides to every story. Margaret, I also told him about the lake cabin weekend, how we're planning another trip. She took off her coat, hung it carefully. He was supportive. Said it's important to maintain work-life balance. Work-life balance. Corporate speak for managing your old husband so he doesn't become a problem. I'm going to bed, she said. Real bed this time. Are you coming? I looked at her, really looked, saw the new blouse. The careful makeup, even this late, the way she held herself different now, straighter, harder. In a bit, I said. She went upstairs. I stayed at the table, reading the folder again. 3 women, 3 buried complaints, and one more thing Earl had tucked at the back. A printout from Margaret's company directory, Rachel Morrison, corporate compliance officer, my niece-in-law. Earl had written in the margin, she might want to know about this. I pulled out my phone, typed, Rachel, it's Uncle Frank, need to talk to you about something. Call when you can, sent it, set the phone down. Upstairs I could hear Margaret moving around. Getting ready for bed like this was just another night, like nothing was crumbling. I sat in the dark, waiting for my phone to ring, wondering how much more I could stand to know. Rachel called back Friday morning. I was on the porch, 4th cup of coffee, hands still shaking despite the caffeine. Uncle Frank, you okay? Your text sounded urgent. I need to ask you something about corporate HR procedures. A pause. This isn't about Aunt Margaret's boss, is it? My turn to pause. How did you... Mom mentioned something at Christmas, said Margaret seemed stressed, working crazy hours, and then I saw the company name on her LinkedIn update about the promotion. Rachel's voice got careful. What's going on? I told her. All of it. The dinner joke, Margaret's dismissal, the folder from Earl, Derek's pattern. When I finished, Rachel was quiet for a long time. Uncle Frank, I need to make a call. Don't do anything yet. I'll get back to you in an hour. She hung up. I sat there watching Earl's house. His kitchen light was on. He'd be reading the paper, working the crossword. Normal Friday morning things. Margaret had left for work at 6:30, hadn't said goodbye. Just coffee in a travel mug and the door clicking shut. My phone rang 53 minutes later. Uncle Frank! Rachel's voice was tight. I called a friend who works in Margaret's HR department. Asked some careful questions. And? Derek Vance has been building a file on Aunt Margaret for the last 6 months. The porch spun. What kind of file? Performance issues. Late to meetings. Attitude problems. Resistant to feedback. Rachel's words came fast, angry. It's all fabricated, Uncle Frank. I've seen Margaret's actual reviews. She's top tier. But Derek's been documenting fake problems since she got promoted. Why would he... Insurance. If she ever complains about his behavior, he's got ammunition to fire her first. Claims she's retaliating for poor performance. Rachel exhaled hard. I've seen this before. It's textbook harassment with a paper trail for protection. My coffee mug was empty. I didn't remember drinking it. What do I do? That's the problem. If you expose him now, he might fire Margaret before we can stop it. She's 3 years from retirement, Uncle Frank. 3 years from full pension. So I do nothing. I didn't say that. I said we have to be smart. Papers rustling on her end. Let me document everything, the fake file, the timeline, the pattern from his previous company. We'll build a real case, then we take it to someone who can actually do something. How long? A few weeks? Maybe a month, 30 more days of Margaret coming home late, 30 more nights of sleeping in separate rooms, 30 more mornings of her coffee travel mug and the door closing. I don't know if I have a month, I said. I know. Rachel's voice softened. But if we move too fast, he wins, and Aunt Margaret loses everything she worked for. After we hung up, I sat there until the cold worked through my coat. My hands were shaking again, not just trembling, full shakes like my body was trying to come apart. I went inside, made more coffee, dropped the mug, pulling it from the cabinet. It shattered on the tile floor. Margaret appeared in the doorway. She'd come home without me hearing. What happened? Dropped it. She looked at my hands, at the broken ceramic, at me. You need to see a doctor. I'm fine. Yeah. You're not fine, Frank. You're not sleeping. You're losing weight. Now you can't hold a coffee mug. She grabbed her purse. I'm making you an appointment. Don't. This isn't up for debate. Margaret. I'm fine. You're falling apart, her voice cracked. And I don't know how to help you because you won't talk to me. You just sit on that porch with that folder, looking at me like I'm the enemy. You defended him. I defended my career. Same thing now, isn't it? She stared at me. Then she picked up her purse and walked out. The door didn't slam. It closed soft final. I swept up the mug, cut my hand on a piece, watched the blood drip into the sink. Saturday passed in silence. Margaret stayed in her room. I stayed on the porch. Sunday, we went to church. Sat in our regular pew. Didn't speak. Pastor Jim preached about bearing one another's burdens. The irony was thick enough to choke on. At the coffee hour, Janine approached with that look, the one that said she knew something and was dying to share it. "How are you two doing?" she asked Margaret. "Fine. Busy with work. Oh, and I heard Derek Vance is quite the demanding boss." Janine's smile was all teeth. "My cousin works in your building, says he's there till all hours." Margaret's face went tight. "He's dedicated." Mm-hmm. Janine patted her arm. "Well, you let me know if you need anything. We take care of our own here." After she left, Margaret turned to me. "Did you tell people about Derek?" "No." "Then how does Janine—" "It's a small town, Margaret. People see his car in the parking lot at midnight. They talk." "Great. Just great." She grabbed her coat. "I'm leaving. You can walk home if you want." She left me there. Earl drove me home 20 minutes later. "Trouble?" he asked. "You could say that. The folder help? Made things worse. Sometimes they get worse before they get better." He pulled into my driveway. "You need anything? I'm right next door." "Thanks, Earl." Inside, Margaret was on the phone. I heard her through the bedroom door. I know. Frank's just being difficult about the whole thing." A pause. "No, Derek, it's fine. He'll get over it." Derek. She was talking to Derek about me. I went to the porch, sat in the dark. The temperature was dropping. Forecast said teens tonight. Around midnight, Margaret came outside. "Frank, it's freezing. Come inside." "I'm fine." You'll get hypothermia." I said I'm fine. She stood there for a minute. Then she went back inside. I stayed out there all night, wrapped in the marine blanket, watching my breath fog in the cold. My hands weren't shaking anymore. They were too numb. Monday morning, 4 a.m., my phone rang. Pete Donovan. I hadn't talked to him in 3 years, maybe 4. Frank Morrison. His voice came through rough with sleep or whiskey. Couldn't tell which. "You're a hard man to track down." "Pete, how'd you—" "Earl Patterson called me. Told me what's happening." I closed my eyes. Earl had no right. Earl had every right. I would have called sooner if I'd known some corporate punk was making my old friend feel like nothing. Pete. We'd served together in the Marines, basic training at Camp Pendleton. I'd taken the fall for a mess hall incident that would have ended his service. He made it through, went to law school, became a labor attorney. "It's complicated," I said. "It's not. Guys harassing your wife and making you feel small. That's textbook workplace misconduct with a side of being an asshole." Despite everything, I almost smiled. I don't want to cause problems for Margaret. "Frank, listen to me. You remember what you told me at Pendleton when I was ready to quit after that mess hall thing?" "No." You said silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. You keep your head down, watch, wait. Then you hit hard once and make it count." Pete's voice got serious. "That's what we're going to do here. We're going to watch. Document. Build a case. Then we're going to make it count." Rachel said the same thing. "Rachel's smart. We'll coordinate with her." Papers rustling. "But Frank, you need to know, this is going to get harder before it gets easier. Can you hold on a little longer?" I looked at the empty house, the dark windows, Margaret's car in the driveway. "I don't know." "Yes, you do. You held on through basic training, through that mess hall investigation, through 30 years of marriage and running a business and everything else life threw at you." Pete's voice dropped. "You're a Marine, Frank. We don't quit." "I'm not a Marine anymore. I'm just an old man whose wife doesn't respect him." "Bullshit. You're a man who's being strategic." "There's a difference." After we hung up, I sat there as dawn came up gray and cold. Margaret left for work without saying goodbye. I made coffee. Dropped the pot this time. It didn't shatter, just dented. My hands were shaking again. Tuesday, Rachel called. "Uncle Frank, I got the documents. Derek's been building that fake file since June, right after Aunt Margaret's promotion." "Why June?" "That's when she started reporting directly to him. That's when he had access." Rachel's voice went hard. "And Uncle Frank, there's something else." I cross-referenced the dates on his fake complaints with Aunt Margaret's calendar. And every single incident he documented, the late arrivals, the attitude problems, the resistance to feedback, they all happened on days Aunt Margaret worked late, days she stayed past 7, 8, 9 o'clock. My stomach turned. "He's punishing her for being there," I said, "or setting her up. making it look like she's overworked and unstable. Either way, it's leverage. Papers rustling. Uncle Frank, if we're going to stop this, we need a public forum, somewhere he can't control the narrative. Like what? Company holiday party. 3 weeks from now, Derek always makes a speech. If we can get evidence in front of the right people, HR, upper management, other employees, he can't bury it. In 3 weeks. 21 more days. I don't know if I can make it 3 weeks, Rachel. You have to, for Aunt Margaret. Because if we do this wrong, she loses her pension. And Uncle Frank? Her voice got soft. She might not forgive you for that. She hung up. I sat at the kitchen table. Same spot where Margaret and I used to eat breakfast together, where we'd paid bills and planned vacations and talked about everything and nothing. Now I sat alone with cold coffee and shaking hands and 3 more weeks of watching my wife choose Derek over me every single day. That night, Margaret came home at 11. I'm sorry about this morning, she said. I should have said goodbye. It's fine. It's not fine. Nothing's fine. She sat down across from me. First time in days. Frank, I don't know what you want from me, and I want you to choose me. I do choose you. Then quit. Walk away from Derek and that job and all of it. Her face went hard. You don't get to ask me that. I'm your husband. And I'm a person with a career, with goals, with a life outside this house. She stood up. I'm not quitting because you're insecure. This isn't about insecurity. Then what's it about, Frank? Tell me. Because from where I'm sitting, you're jealous that someone else values my work. That someone else makes me feel important. He's using you, Margaret. Or maybe you're losing me and you can't handle it. She went upstairs. I sat there until the sun came up. 3 weeks, I thought. 3 weeks and this ends, one way or another. Sunday afternoon, 3 people sat around my kitchen table. Pete on the laptop, legal pad covered in notes. Earl with the original folder, coffee going cold. Rachel on speakerphone from her office. Here's what we know, Pete said. Pattern of behavior across 2 companies. 3 documented settlements. 1 active case of HR manipulation. And a target on Margaret's back. The question is how we use it, Rachel said through the speaker. If we go to HR quietly, Derek's got friends there. It gets buried like the others. To public exposure, Earl said. Only way to make sure it sticks. Pete nodded. Agreed. Which brings us to the company holiday party, December 18th. Derek always gives a speech. Earl's niece confirmed it from the last company. He can't help himself, I said. Needs everyone watching. That's his weakness. Pete tapped his pen. Men like Derek, they need an audience. Need to perform. We use that. Rachel's voice came sharp through the phone. But we need ironclad evidence. Uncle Frank, can you get Margaret to forward any inappropriate emails, texts? She won't. She doesn't see them as inappropriate. Then we work with what we have. Rachel paused. I can document the fake performance file, show the timeline, but it's risky. If Derek finds out I access those records, I'm done. Don't, I said. Don't risk your career for this. Uncle Frank, Margaret babysat me when I was 8. She taught me to ride a bike. She came to my college graduation when my own parents couldn't. Rachel's voice cracked. I'm not letting some corporate bully destroy her. Risk is part of it. Pete leaned forward. Here's the play. Frank goes to the party. When Derek makes his speech, and he will, Frank stands up, calm, factual, names the previous company, names the pattern, puts it all on the table in front of HR, upper management, everyone. My stomach turned. I can't do that. Yes, you can. Pete, I don't do public speaking. I'm a mechanic. I fix engines, not... You're a Marine, Pete cut in. You stood guard duty. You gave reports to commanding officers. You know how to deliver information under pressure. That was 45 years ago. Some things you don't forget. Pete slid a piece of paper across the table. I'll write you talking points. Keep it simple. Facts only. No emotion. Just, Derek Vance has a pattern. Here's the proof. Here's what needs to happen. Earl set down his coffee cup. He's right, Frank. You give them a good speech in front of everyone. Derek can't wiggle out. Company will want him gone before it becomes a lawsuit. And Margaret? I asked. What happens to her? Rachel answered. If we do this right, the company protects her, keeps her position, secures her pension. Derek's the liability, not her. And if we do it wrong, silence. Pete finally spoke. Then we've got bigger problems. But Frank, doing nothing isn't an option either. Derek's not going to stop. He'll keep pushing until Margaret's completely isolated from you, or until she files a complaint and he fires her first. I looked at the 3 of them. Pete, who I'd saved from a dishonorable discharge 45 years ago. Earl, who brought me coffee at dawn and tracked down Derek's history. Rachel, risking her career because Margaret once taught her to ride a bike. Okay, I said. I'm in. Pete smiled. Good man. Now let's build this case. The next 2 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize. I woke at 5 every morning, made coffee, read through Pete's talking points until I had them memorized. Derek Vance has a documented pattern of targeting married female employees. 3 women at Midwest Regional Solutions filed complaints. All complaints were settled with NDAs. He is currently building a false performance file on my wife. Facts. Just facts. No anger, no accusations. Just information delivered calm and clear. I practiced in the mirror. Felt ridiculous. Did it anyway. Pete called every other day. How's it going? I sound like an idiot. You sound nervous. Oh, that's different. By the time the party comes, you'll be ready. Rachel sent updates. Got copies of the fake file. Documented every entry. Compared them to Margaret's actual performance reviews. It's a smoking gun. Earl checked in most mornings. Brought coffee, sat on the porch, didn't say much. Just his presence. Steady, reliable. Margaret noticed the change in me. You seem different, she said one evening. We were eating dinner, separately but in the same room. Progress, maybe. Different how? Better. Less, she searched for the word. Less defeated. I almost laughed, if she only knew. Just sleeping better, I said. I'm glad. She reached across, touched my hand. I've been worried about you. The touch lasted 3 seconds. Then her phone buzzed, Derek's name on the screen. She pulled her hand back, answered. Hey. Yeah, I can talk. She left the room. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, listening to her laugh in the next room at something Derek said. 2 more weeks, I thought. Just 2 more weeks. The Sunday before the party, church service felt longer than usual. Pastor Jim preached about standing up for what's right, about speaking truth even when it's hard. Felt like he was talking directly to me. At coffee hour, people approached different than before. Not gossip-hungry like Janine. Genuinely concerned, Tom Davis, who ran the hardware store. Heard you got some trouble with Margaret's boss. You need anything? You let me know. And Sarah Chen, who taught at the elementary school. My sister works at that company. Says Derek Vance is bad news. We're rooting for you, Frank. The pastor himself pulled me aside. I don't know details, and I don't need to. But whatever you're facing, you've got support here. Sometimes standing up is the most Christian thing you can do. I realized Earl hadn't just gathered evidence. He'd gathered an army. That afternoon, I pulled my dress shoes from the closet, black leather, hardly worn. Last time was Earl's wife's funeral 2 years ago. I sat on the bed, shoe polish and rag in hand, and started working. Margaret came in, saw what I was doing. Those are your funeral shoes. Yeah. Why are you polishing them? The party's not formal. Want to look presentable. She stood in the doorway, watching me work the polish into the leather. Slow. Methodical, the way my father taught me when I was 10. You're scaring me a little, she said. I looked up. No reason to be scared. Then, why does it feel like you're preparing for something? Just a party, Margaret. She didn't look convinced, but she left me alone. I finished the shoes, set them by the door. Then I pulled out my one good suit, 20 years old, but it still fit, pressed the shirt, found the tie I'd worn to our nephew's wedding, laid it all out like a uniform, because that's what this was. A mission. And Marines didn't go into the field unprepared. Friday, the day before the party, Pete called one last time. You ready? No. Good. If you were confident, I'd be worried. Nerves keep you sharp. He paused. Frank, I want you to remember something. You're not doing this for revenge. You're not even doing it for justice, really. Then what am I doing it for? You're protecting Margaret. From a predator she can't see yet. Sometimes love means standing up for someone even when they're mad at you for it. She's gonna hate me, maybe, for a while, but she'll be safe, and she'll still have her pension. Pete's voice softened. And maybe, eventually, she'll understand you loved her enough to be the bad guy. After we hung up, I sat on the porch one more time. The December air was bitter, but I didn't feel it. Earl's light came on across the way. He appeared in his window, saw me, raised his coffee mug in salute. I raised mine back. Margaret came home early. First time in months. I'm leaving work at 4 tomorrow, she said. For the party. Derek wants everyone there by 6. Okay. You're still coming, right? Wouldn't miss it. She smiled. Actually smiled. Thank you, Frank. It means a lot that you're making an effort. Making an effort. If she only knew. That night, I laid out my clothes one more time. Shoes, suit, shirt, tie. Pete's talking points folded in the jacket pocket. I sat on the edge of the bed, hands steady for the first time in weeks. Tomorrow, I thought. Tomorrow, this ends. Margaret was already asleep in the next room. I listened to her breathe, steady. Peaceful. 30 years of that sound. 30 years of knowing someone so well you could recognize their breathing in the dark. I thought about the first time I heard it. Our wedding night, cheap motel in Indiana, both of us 22, and terrified and in love. I'd laid awake listening to her breathe, thinking I was the luckiest man alive. Tomorrow, I was going to stand up in front of her coworkers, her boss, her whole professional world, and blow it apart. She was going to hate me, but she'd be safe. And maybe that's what love looked like after 30 years. Not grand gestures, not poetry, just standing up when it would be easier to stay seated, speaking up when it would be easier to stay quiet. I set my alarm for 5 a.m., then I closed my eyes and tried to sleep. Saturday morning, December 18th. I woke before the alarm. 5:15, still dark outside. The house quiet except for the furnace clicking on, warm air rattling through the vents. I made coffee in the percolator. The smell filled the kitchen, burnt, honest, familiar. I stood at the counter watching it brew, steam rising in the cold morning air. My hands were steady. I showered. Shaved careful, nicked my chin anyway. Watched the blood run down the drain with the soap and water. When I came downstairs, dressed except for the tie, Margaret was awake. She stood in the kitchen in her robe, staring at me. The party's not until 6. Why are you ready now? Wanted time to think. She poured coffee, added cream, studied me over the rim of her mug. You're really coming. I said I would. I know, but she set the coffee down. You hate these things. You've avoided every company event for 10 years. Maybe it's time I showed up for you at work. Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe, or suspicion. She came over, kissed my cheek. Thank you. Derek will appreciate seeing you. My jaw tightened. I didn't trust myself to speak. She went upstairs to get ready. I heard water running, the hairdryer, drawers opening and closing. I made breakfast. Pancakes. The recipe her mother taught me 30 years ago. When Margaret came down, she stopped in the doorway. What's the occasion? Just wanted to. We ate in silence. Not the angry silence of the last few weeks. Something else. Heavy. Final. She finished first. I should get ready. Need to be there early to help set up. Okay. You don't have to be there until 6. I know. She went back upstairs. I washed the dishes. Dried them. Put them away. Wiped down the counter until it shined. Then I sat at the kitchen table with cold coffee and Pete's talking points, reading them one more time. My phone buzzed. Earl, you've got this, neighbor. Then Pete. Remember, calm, factual, devastating. Then walk away. Then Rachel. I'll be there. Back of the room. You're not alone. I set the phone down. At 2 o'clock, Margaret came downstairs. Hair done, makeup perfect, wearing a dress I'd never seen. Black, professional, expensive. How do I look? Beautiful. She smiled. I'm heading over now. Derek wants the management team there early. Be careful. Roads might be icy. I will. She grabbed her coat, paused at the door. Frank? Yeah? I'm glad you're coming tonight. I know things have been hard between us, but you being there, it means something. She left before I could answer. I sat alone in the quiet house for 3 hours. At 5:30, I put on my tie. Checked the mirror. The suit was old, but it still fit. The shoes were polished. I looked like a man going to a funeral. Maybe I was. I folded Pete's talking points, slipped them into my jacket pocket. Checked my phone one more time. Pete, Godspeed, Marine. I locked the house, got in my truck. The engine turned over rough in the cold. The drive to the Holiday Inn took 20 minutes. Sleet had started, just light, but the forecast said snow by 8. The parking lot was half full. Derek's BMW in the spot closest to the door. Reserve placard in the window. I parked in the back. Sat there for a minute, engine running, heat blasting. Through the windshield, I could see people arriving. Couples, coworkers, everyone dressed up, laughing, heading inside to warmth and music and open bar. Normal people, normal lives. I turned off the engine. The cold hit immediately. I got out, locked the truck, walked across the parking lot. Sleet tapping my shoulders, melting on my collar. Inside, the hotel smelled like industrial carpet and air freshener. Generic Christmas decorations, tinsel, plastic wreaths, a tree in the corner with lights that blinked out of sync. The ballroom was down the hall. I could hear music, voices, glasses clinking. I stopped outside the door, last chance to turn around. Go home, pretend everything was fine. But Margaret's voice in my head, what Frank doesn't know won't hurt him. Derek's laugh. Your old man would have a heart attack. The fake HR file. The 3 women before. The pattern. I pushed open the door. The room was loud. Maybe 80 people, scattered around tables. Bar set up in the corner, catering trays on folding tables. Cheap wine and cheaper decorations, and everyone trying too hard to have a good time. I found a table in the back, near the exit, sat down. People glanced at me. Some recognized me. Margaret's husband, the one who never came to these things. Whispers. Looks. I didn't care. Across the room, Margaret stood with a group of coworkers. Laughing, gesturing with her wine glass, she looked happy, relaxed. She hadn't seen me yet. At 6:15, Derek arrived. Not just arrived, made an entrance. Designer suit, loud voice, working the room like a politician. Handshakes, backslaps, that practiced smile. He found Margaret, put his hand on her shoulder, said something that made her laugh. My hands flattened on the table. The back door opened. Earl slipped in, found a spot against the wall, caught my eye, nodded. I nodded back. 6:30. Derek moved to the front of the room. Someone handed him a microphone. "Can I get everyone's attention?" His voice boomed. "Thanks for coming out tonight. I know it's the holidays, you've got family stuff, but I wanted to celebrate this incredible team." Applause. Margaret clapping with everyone else. Derek launched into a speech. Q4 numbers, company growth, individual shout-outs to top performers. Margaret's name got mentioned. More applause. She smiled, waved. Derek kept talking. Jokes about deadlines and coffee consumption and working late. Everyone laughed on cue. Then, "But seriously, I want to thank all of you and your patient spouses who let you shine, who understand that sometimes work comes first." The room chuckled, knowing. Like they'd all had this conversation at home. Derek's eyes scanned the crowd, landed on me. Recognition flickered, then surprise, then something like amusement. Especially the really patient ones. He was looking right at me now. "Right, Frank? You know all about patience?" The room turned. 80 pairs of eyes. Margaret's face drained white. My heart hammered. This was it. I stood up, slowly, deliberately. The room went quiet, except for the music someone forgot to turn off. Derek's grin faltered. "Frank, buddy, I know," I said. My voice came out steady, calm. "You're just joking." Derek relaxed, thought I was playing along. "See, Frank gets it." "I do get it," I said. "I get that you're right. I am patient." Margaret half rose from her seat. "Frank, please." I kept my eyes on Derek. Patient enough to wait, to watch, to gather evidence. Derek's smile froze. I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out the folded papers. Patient enough to find out about Jennifer Walsh, Amy Chen, Patricia Donovan. The room went dead silent. Derek's face changed. "What are you—" 3 women at Midwest Regional Solutions. 3 sexual harassment complaints, 3 settlements with NDAs. I unfolded the papers. All because you like to make husbands feel small. Someone gasped. Margaret stood up completely now. "Frank, what are you doing?" I didn't look at her. Couldn't. If I looked at her, I'd lose my nerve. "I'm being patient," I said. "Just like you asked, Derek." The back door opened again. Rachel slipped in, phone in hand, recording. Derek saw her, saw Earl, saw the papers in my hand. "This is insane," he said into the microphone. "This man is telling the truth." I cut him off. "Which is something you're not very good at." I took a step forward. The room held its breath. And I started talking. "Derek Vance has a pattern." My voice carried across the silent room. "He targets married women, makes them feel valued. Then he makes their husbands feel worthless." Derek's face went red. "You need to stop. Jennifer Walsh worked for you at Midwest Regional Solutions. You told her husband he was obsolete in front of the whole office. He was 64. Been married 40 years. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Amy Chen, her husband was a teacher. You joked about his summers off, called teaching an easy job compared to real work. Derek stepped away from the microphone. "This is slander. It's documentation." I held up the papers. 3 attorneys, 4 women if you count my wife, and 6 months of fake performance reviews you've been building on Margaret. Margaret's hand went to her mouth. People turned to look at her, then back at me, then at Derek. "You've been documenting attitude problems, late arrivals, resistance to feedback." I looked at Margaret now, had to. "None of it true. All of it insurance. So if she ever complained about you, you could fire her first." That's absurd," Derek said, but his voice cracked. "This is the standard management." "Show them the file, then." I gestured to the woman near the front, Lynn something, HR director. I'd seen her name on Rachel's emails. "Ms. Chen, you have access to personnel files. Show everyone Margaret's performance reviews from before Derek became her supervisor." Lynn went pale, pulled out her phone, fingers shaking. Derek grabbed for the microphone again. "You can't just—" "This is a private matter. You made it public when you joked about my bedroom at my dinner table." My voice stayed level, calm, just like Pete coached. "When you told my wife to work late so she wouldn't expect much when she got home." Margaret stood frozen, wine glass still in her hand. "When you made her choose between her career and her marriage." I took another step forward. "When you turned her against me because it made you feel powerful." I never, Derek started. You did. The voice came from the side. A woman, in her 50s, someone I didn't recognize. You did it to me too. At Midwest Regional, the room erupted in whispers. Derek whirled. Susan, you signed an NDA. Sue me. Susan stood up. I'm tired of staying quiet while you destroy marriages. Another woman stood. Younger, maybe 40. He told my husband I was too good for him, that I deserved someone more ambitious. We almost divorced over it. Derek backed toward the exit. This is a setup. This man is telling the truth, Margaret's voice cut through. Everyone turned. She set down her wine glass, walked to the front, stood facing Derek. Did you build a file on me? Margaret, it's standard procedure. Did you build a file? Derek's jaw worked. I documented some concerns. After you promoted me, after I started reporting to you. Her voice shook. You made me feel valued, important, like I finally mattered after 28 years of being invisible. You do matter. And the whole time, you were setting me up. Tears ran down her face, but her voice stayed strong, making me choose you over my husband, isolating me. So when I finally saw what you were, you could destroy me. That's not... Don't. She stepped back. Don't talk to me. Don't talk about my husband. Don't talk about our marriage. Her voice broke. You don't get to do that anymore. The room was silent. Derek looked around, at the faces staring back. At Lynn with her phone out, already typing furiously. At Earl by the door, arms crossed. At Rachel filming everything. At me. This is... He grabbed his coat from a chair. I don't have to listen to this. No. Lynn stood up. But you do have to meet with me. Monday morning. 8 a.m. Bring a lawyer. Derek's face went white. You're believing? I'm believing. Documented evidence and multiple witnesses. Lynn's voice was ice. You're suspended pending investigation, effective immediately. Derek looked at Margaret one more time. She turned away. He stormed out. The door slammed behind him. For 10 seconds, nobody moved. Then the room exploded, everyone talking at once, phones out, people rushing to Margaret, to Lynn, to the women who'd stood up. I stood there, papers still in my hand, feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. Earl appeared at my elbow. Time to go, neighbor. Margaret, needs space, come on. He guided me toward the exit. People stepped aside, some nodded, a few even said thank you. Outside, sleet had turned to snow, fat flakes, falling heavy, already accumulating. You did good, Frank, Earl said. Doesn't feel good? It will. Margaret came through the doors then, alone. Coat on, mascara smeared, shaking. She saw me, stopped. Frank, I'm sorry, I said. For what? For ruining your career, for embarrassing you, for... Stop. She walked over, stood close enough I could smell her perfume. You didn't ruin anything. You saved me from someone I couldn't see clearly. You're not mad? I'm furious. Her voice cracked. At him, at myself, at how blind I was. She looked up at me, but not at you. The snow fell between us. Can we go home? She asked. Yeah, we can go home. Earl waved us off. I'll get your truck tomorrow, Frank. We got in Margaret's car. She drove, hands tight on the wheel, not speaking. At home, she went straight to the kitchen table, sat down hard. I made coffee, set a mug in front of her. We need to talk, she said. I know. And I sat down across from her. I'm listening. And for the first time in months, we talked. 11:30 at night, snow falling outside. 2 mugs of coffee between us, on the kitchen table, the same table where we'd paid bills and planned vacations and eaten 1,000 breakfasts together. Margaret wrapped both hands around her mug, didn't drink, just held it. I don't know where to start, she said. Start anywhere. She was quiet for a long time. Then, I was flattered when Derek promoted me, when he praised my work, made me feel like I mattered, like I'd finally proven myself after all those years. You always mattered. I know. But you're supposed to think that. You're my husband. Her voice cracked. Derek wasn't supposed to. That made it feel more real, like I'd actually earned something. I started to speak. She held up a hand. Let me finish, please. I nodded. I got so caught up in being valued at work that I forgot who valued me at home. I let him make you small so I could feel big. I laughed at his jokes, worked late when I didn't need to, told him things about us, about you, that weren't his business. Tears ran down her face now. I chose his approval over your dignity, and that's unforgivable. Margaret, no, Frank, it is. You're my husband. We've been married 30 years, and I let some man I barely knew make you feel worthless in your own home. She finally looked at me. How do I fix that? I reached across the table, took her hand. You just did. We sat like that for a while, snow tapping the windows, the house settling around us. Derek's gone, she said finally. Lynn called while I was driving home. He's fired, effective immediately. They're offering a settlement if he leaves quietly. And you? My position is secure, pension intact. She laughed, bitter, exhausted. They're very concerned about potential lawsuits. Want to make sure I'm satisfied with the resolution. Are you? I don't know yet. She pulled her hand back, wrapped it around the coffee mug again. Lynn offered me Derek's position, interim regional VP. My stomach dropped. What did you say? I said I'd think about it. She met my eyes. But, Frank, I've been thinking about something else. I've got 28 years in, enough for early retirement, and maybe, her voice got soft, maybe I want to remember what life was like before performance reviews and office politics. Don't quit because of me. I'm not. I'm quitting because of me. She stood up, started pacing. I spent 3 decades chasing something I thought would make me feel valuable. And you know what? It didn't. Derek's praise didn't. The promotion didn't. The fancy title didn't. What did? She stopped pacing, looked at me. You, standing up in front of everyone, risking everything to protect me from something I couldn't see. Fresh tears. That's what made me feel valuable. Not because you fought for me, because you loved me enough to be the bad guy. I didn't know what to say to that. She sat back down. I'm going to work through the quarter, tie up loose ends, then I'm retiring, March 1st. You're sure? I'm sure. She reached across again. This time I met her halfway. Frank, I almost lost us. Almost traded 30 years for 6 months of feeling important at work. I don't want to come that close again. We both almost lost us, I said. I should have said something sooner. Should have fought for us before it got this bad. You fought when it mattered. We sat there until the coffee went cold, until the snow stopped falling, until the first gray light of dawn crept through the windows. Margaret stood up finally. I should try to sleep. Yeah. She paused at the stairs. Frank, will you come to bed? Real bed, not separate rooms. Give me a minute. I'll be up. She went upstairs. I sat at the table a little longer, thought about Derek, probably in some hotel room right now, career destroyed. Thought about Margaret, choosing early retirement. Thought about 30 years of marriage, almost lost, somehow saved. Then I went upstairs. Margaret was already in bed. I climbed in next to her. She turned, put her head on my shoulder. I love you, she said. I love you too. We fell asleep like that, together. 3 months later, Margaret's last day came and went. Small party at the office. I didn't go and she didn't ask me to. She came home at 3 o'clock with a card signed by coworkers and a cake she didn't want. It's done, she said. How do you feel? Free. That weekend, we drove to the lake cabin. Same route, same car, different people. Margaret turned off her phone completely, set it in the glove box. For real this time, she said. At the cabin, we fell into the old rhythms. I started the fire. She made coffee. We sat on the dock, despite the March cold, wrapped in blankets. Remember when we bought this place? I asked. She smiled. You asked me that last time we were here. I thought it was worth repeating. We sat in comfortable silence, real silence. The kind that doesn't need filling. A month later, we came back, then the month after that. Sometimes we talked about what happened. Sometimes we didn't. But we were talking again. Really talking. Not around each other or past each other. To each other. The church ladies asked questions. We gave them enough to be polite, not enough to gossip about. Earl still brought coffee some mornings. Sat on the porch, didn't need to say much. Pete called once a month. How's retirement treating Margaret? Good, real good. And you too? We're working on it. That's all any marriage is, Frank. Work, the good kind. Rachel visited in May, brought her kids. Margaret taught the youngest to ride a bike in our driveway, just like she'd done for Rachel 30 years ago. Thank you, Rachel said to me while we watched, for trusting me with this. Thank you for risking your career. Family's worth the risk. September. 6 months after Margaret's retirement, we were back at the cabin, watching the geese fly south. Margaret's hand found mine on the porch swing. What are you thinking? She asked. That we almost didn't make it here. But we did? Yeah, we did, the geese called overhead. V formation, precise, heading somewhere they'd been 1,000 times before, coming home in their own way. Frank? Margaret squeezed my hand. What made you finally stand up? At the party? I thought about it. About Derek's jokes and Margaret's laughter and the 3 women before and the fake HR file and all of it. You, I said finally. Us. 30 years don't vanish because one man thought they should. I almost let them. Almost, but you didn't. We rocked slow on the swing. The lake was glass smooth, mist rising in the morning cold. I forgot something important, Margaret said. In all those years, chasing promotions and praise and proving myself, I forgot that the person who sees you every day, who stays when things get hard, who fights for you even when you don't deserve it, that's who makes you valuable. Not some boss, not some job title. Took me a while to fight for us. But you did, when it mattered. She leaned her head on my shoulder. That's what 30 years means, I think. Sometimes you carry it. Sometimes I do, but we don't put it down. Steam rose from our coffee mugs, curled in the cold air, disappeared into morning light. Somewhere down the lake, a loon called. Its mate answered. I thought about all the marriages that don't make it, all the couples who choose career over partnership, ego over love, being right over being together. We'd come close, closer than I wanted to admit, but we were still here, still choosing each other, still showing up. Some battles you win without raising your voice. Some homes you save by refusing to let them die in silence. 30 years, worth fighting for, worth coming home to every single day.